course, what you're listening to in the Savage Nation is a blending of the United States national anthem with the ex-Soviet Union's national anthem, because we have had a communist revolution in the United States of America, but most of you are too busy worrying about other things to comprehend that Obama is a naked Marxist. He is surrounded by naked Marxists. The world is surrounded by Marxists who have hoodwinked you into believing that, A, there's global warming caused by mankind. We've told you that all of them, every last one of them, are using these fear tactics to try to serve you up with dictatorship. Now, what is the proof for my premise? Am I just making this up because I'm full of hot air? I have told you over and over again that environmentalists are green on the outside but red on the inside. Today at the Copenhagen Climate Summit, so-called, this was made clearer than ever. The communist dictator, Hugo Chavez, said that there was a terrible ghost named capitalism in the room. In other words, he was blaming capitalism for a global warming crisis that does not exist. He blames capitalism for all the ills of the world. And his solution? A dictatorship. A socialist communist dictatorship. That means an intervention by the state. A national, international state into the life of every last man, woman, and child on the planet. But remember, this is not merely some tin pot dictator. This man, Chavez, is Obama's friend. This is a dictator who has nationalized his country's banks and nationalized his nation's media in the same way Barack Hussein Obama is trying to nationalize our healthcare system. And no sooner did the words of hatred come from the Venezuelan dictator's mouth than none other than Hillary Clinton announced she was going to send countless billions of American taxpayer dollars to a climate fund to enforce this kind of radical communism crap. Communist carbon capos are sitting there laughing, and your ancestors who may have died fighting communism are rolling over in their grave. Here's Hillary Clinton, who backed the communist dictator of Honduras, who was thrown out by his own people, saying that money would be spent on, quote, the poorest and most vulnerable amongst us. Now remember, here we have a country, the United States of America, that is fundamentally bankrupt. A nation that is printing money, borrowing money, and spending money like drunks. And she has the nerve to say, I'm going to give you $100 billion? Where will it come from? At the same time all of this is going on, legal experts are saying that it would be unconstitutional for Barack Hussein Obama to sign on to any treaty at all. But Barack Hussein Obama isn't concerned about legality. He's concerned about the 3 C's, climate, Copenhagen, and communism. And I say, no more money for communist carbon capos. Chavez is a dictator. He has stolen the banks. He's driven the middle class out of the country. He says capitalism is a destructive model. Do you have any idea what life was like for the average Soviet under the socialist dictatorship in the ex-Soviet Union? Do you have any idea what you're playing with here? Chavez says that capitalism must be overthrown. And with socialism, with arms extended and a battle against capitalism, mankind will be saved. My friends, if you believe that mankind can be saved by socialism, I ask you to please look at the 60 million graves in China under the socialist dictatorship of Mao Zedong, the 30 million graves in the Soviet Union that were brought about by the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917. Look at the 3 to 4 million graves in Cambodia brought about by the grandfather of these men, Pol Pot. You have any idea what you're facing here? You're facing a revolutionary communist government, not only in Venezuela, in Copenhagen, and in the United States of America. That's my premise. What's your answer? Phone number 1-800-449-8255. Play the national anthem, please. And while this is going on, the sneakiest man in the history of the American Senate, Harry Reid, perhaps like a night thief, here's the most outrageous thing you've ever heard. They want the Senate to vote on a bill that will take over 1/6 of the American economy that no one outside of Harry Reid's office has ever seen. This is the pattern that you would expect in a dictatorship, is it not? And you rats who voted for the Democrats, you ought to be ashamed of yourself to put in such a criminal government as we have in this country. crooks, and thieves, virtually down to the last man and woman amongst them. You said we get openness? You believe this? We're living in a dictatorship. We have a regime. We don't have a government. That's my opinion. I'll take your calls because I've said all I want to say. Communist controlled climate summit. Applaud dictators. Clinton commits billions to communist carbon crooks. Associated Press lied for Gore. British government accused of climate change lies. Copenhagen summit is being dominated by red flags. Illegal aliens build F-22 hangars on Air Force Base. Insurgents in Iraq have hacked into live video feeds from Predator drones, and they have found the drones on the way. And you know how they did this? Our great military under our great Defense Secretary Gates. You know how they did it? They bought a $29.95 program, apparently. And if you think that's bad enough, you're right. But, my friends, it gets worse and worse and worse. And here it is. Here it is. Here it is, my friends. Naked communism facing you, talking to you, mocking you, threatening you, and a government fundamentally not of the people, by the people, and for the people, but an internationalist government of the internationalists, by the internationalists, and for the internationalists. We have a fascist regime in the making. As I said to you yesterday, Obama is a baby dictator who would like to become a full-blown daddy dictator. The only thing that's stopping him is the genius of the founding fathers, those evil white males who put together the greatest governmental system the world has ever seen. You see, the founding fathers knew that the day would come that Obama would appear on the scene, a would-be baby dictator who would like to be a full-blown Papa Doc Duvalier type. And they figured out that the best way to stop a Papa Doc from originating and growing up in America, should he seize power through means false and real, would be to have a separation of powers, would be a slow, deliberative body known as the U.S. Senate. And there'd be a U.S. Supreme Court to override such a dictatorship. And that's what you got from the founding fathers. You didn't get that from Chavez. You didn't get that from Stalin. You didn't get that from Hitler. You got that from the evil white males who founded this great nation. You understand what we're facing right now? We are facing a communist dictatorship throughout the Western world, and a communist dictatorship that is growing by the day in the United States of America underneath the illegitimate regime of Barack Hussein Obama. I rest my case. I'll be right back.
Savage.
How many years have I told you that there's a government media complex? I gave that speech in 1998 or 1997 at the one of the major league centers in San Francisco while they were still permitting people to speak the truth, the Commonwealth Club, before it became totally dominated by left-wing fanatics. And I warned America about the government media complex. Let me give you an example. This Copenhagen Climate Summit is a communist summit. They're trying to hijack the economies of the West under the guise of saving the environment. What is my evidence for that statement? The evidence is what you're not seeing in your rotten, stinking, worthless newspaper and on your useless television networks. The red flags, the communist hammer and sickle. Huge banners all over the streets of Copenhagen being blocked by the New York Times, LA Times, Chicago Tribune. You name the rotten, stinking, old-line newspaper, and you'll see the old-line government media complex that has failed because the people have had enough of these liars in the media. The flags are waving in Copenhagen. Naked communism with hammers and sickle. I told you it's a scam. I've told you it's a scam. Here you have a city in snow called Copenhagen, while these schmucks are sitting there giving speech after speech about saving the world when it has nothing to do with saving the world. Even the biggest dope of them all, one of the most useless people on the planet, Prince Charles, who has never worked a day in his life, a weakling who is living off the violence of his ancestors, a man who's done nothing in his life except paint paintings and fall off polo horses and lose his girlfriends, gets up there and talks about the climate and it's all falling and the sky is falling. Listen to clip 09 with Prince Schmuck Charles.
Over more than 3 decades, I have been privileged to talk with some of the world's most eminent experts on climate change and environmental issues, and to listen to the wisdom of some of the world's indigenous people. The conclusion I draw is that the future of mankind can be assured...
Oh, shut up. You can't even finish a paragraph without making me want to slam something down. Why don't you learn how to speak English the way it should be spoken? What do you mean, issue? Issue. You have not listened to the world's most eminent experts on climate change. You dolt, you. The most eminent experts on climate change you don't even want to hear from. Listen to clip 10 now as Moron goes on.
For the grim reality is that our planet has reached a point of crisis, and we have only 7 years before we lose the levers of control.
Wait. He knows the exact amount of time that the world's coming to an end.